This platform is a hypothetical container, a vessel, if you like, of transferable methods to encourage alternative forms of making site-specific work that can exist as an honest form of interaction with inaccessible, restricted locations. It promotes speculation as honesty. The method responds to how demarcation and restrictive boundaries to development sites can be broken down imaginatively, so to encourage excavation of recent futures, proposing a new understanding into the liminality of recollecting encounters with spaces that are partially hidden. It aims to incentivize alternative ways for documentation, encouraging one to surrender to impressionability, being truthful to the impression's presence in our navigation of recollection. Research and imagination must share the same bed here. As the filmmaker and thinker Trinity Minhar puts it in her 1982 film Reassemblage,
I do not intend to speak about, just speak nearby.
To speak about isn't truthful enough to articulate the locationally, temporally, non-linear frame of documentation, as this model proposes that there is no such thing as documentary. There is an eternal commentary that escorts images, as eternally so as our involuntary thoughts so often forgotten when reciting. We must play to this imagined place, play to it so as to excavate a location as veridically as we can. Like the filmmaker and thinker Patrick Keeler, we can adopt a fictional character to escort our perambulations in place, to emphasize the non-real presences we're confronted by, consequently locating images, bringing spectres forward. The platform is not exclusively about the factory in Cathcart, which I started to excavate a few months ago, to reimagine and speculate on its inner workings whilst walking around its boundary. It isn't about its products that maintain the efficiency of flow systems on board nuclear subs and destroyers, which bear a striking resemblance to the disappearing industrial places that Hiller and Bernd Becker documented. Neither is it about the land they've sold next door for the development of luxury flats, but it's more so about how the boundary of this site, like so many others, imagineers, artists, and the wider public to value a speculative form of archaeology. It redefines how we perceive places undergoing development, be it on an industrial scale or in our own practices. This ongoing change is the reason for the container's hypotheticality, initially modelled off corporate land and its demolition site. The hypothesis will responsively change, disarticulating to re-articulate the imagined sphere embedded in our recitations. It will teach us to address our romanticistic tendencies, our fabrication, and our impressionability to the websites, the histories, and archival floor plans of canteens that are now paved over, and to accumulate them together, excavating with a delineated way of seeing, of remaining truthful to our subject, whether inaccessible, immaterial, or overbearingly informative. This method teaches us all to be the hosts of past to come. I've included an excerpt of a way in which this hypothetical container is beginning to realize a narrative with my fictional companion, a bird called Sinclair. Yeah, so on Inverlair Avenue, Sinclair and I were pleasantly surprised to find that a fantasy image had not of yet then been placed on the demarcation. There wasn't a painting of a non-existent future, so to speak, like those rendered pin-up complexes often drawn around construction sites. Instead, the shell of the old building had windows that we could peer through. I suppose it was like undecorated Harris fencing, in so much as they were screens failing to hide this gory projection of rubble, piled as mounded scars lately slaughtered. They unknowingly confessed as a messy abattoir of an embarrassing fuck-up, but they were compellingly transparent and anatomically accurate nonetheless. I suppose the ghosts wanted out of this messy redevelopment, but further into this projection we wondered. Of course we had a gauzed view gaze onto this rocky, pileable and so removable bosoms of rubble and mortise and a few thistles. Some of the fencing was decorated with PVC mesh, weatherproof. Forgive my romanticising here, but they seem to be echoic of the dome of heaven. Artificial, a fabrication of the poet John Clare's final lines in his poem I Am. They resembled the vault of the sky, blue and invisible, like the camouflage of modern industrial architecture, in those huge Amazon warehouses. So our wandering was made all the more transcendental by the mesh's presence being boldened there in front of us, due to its absence along most of the Harris. It seemed to be guarding the slain, like an angelic interface between realms. At one point, we could hear it sing, "Hark, home is where the heart is," and the distance of this now transparent demarcation makes the heart ponder alternative haptic coaxing to the barricades. I think it's sung. Although maybe I'm just thinking nearby Heather and Ivan Morrison's Journée des Barricades as I stand beside this dune blocking our view. Either way, together the fencing and the earth and the tyres and mesh resembled a kind of lost cadre of gargoyles. I believe it was Jan Verwoerd, when introducing a bit of writing on Paulina Olowska, who spoke about the accidental creation of a country with fluid borders, from the spilling a glass of red wine over a map on a table. And we particularly liked the sound of fluid borders. Sinclair irritatingly suggested that we go and buy a bottle of wine and throw it at the fence. Although I sort of desired a more hypothetical approach where we could reimagine the fence as some kind of moat, perhaps, with a malleable meniscus that moves underfoot, but dense enough, of course, so as not to become hazardous and unapproachable. You could think of it as some kind of somatically navigable custard skin, but transparent, obviously. This way we might be able to excavate ruins more joyfully.